Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Dill, Marcus Freeman, Notre Dame wrapping up their second scrimmage of fall camp. And Marcus Freeman takes the press conference stand, and you knew the questions were going to start popping up. Who is the quarterback one for Notre Dame rolling into 2025? Marcus Freeman tells the media that we are still in a quarterback competition. We have not made up our mind who our starting quarterback is going into the week one opener against Miami. My question for you, my question for the Notre Dame fans who are listening, do you think that's true? Do you think this coaching staff does not know who their quarterback one is going to be? Because, Dill, the way I look at it, I'm not getting up here and saying Notre Dame has zeroed in on their quarterback. There's a chance they have. You look at Marcus Freeman, why would you get up here on Sunday afternoon, 2 weeks before we're kicking off this football game? Why would you tell Miami who's going to be the guy? Because, look, you're preparing for this Notre Dame offense a lot differently if it's CJ Carr versus Kenny Minchey. It is a distinct competitive advantage to keep your quarterback one under wraps heading into this matchup. I'm not saying there's any truth to it. I think that's certainly worth a conversation. I know everybody wants to talk about the quarterback battle. There are some other intriguing storylines that we see playing out for Notre Dame because I will continue to emphasize this. This is a national championship caliber football team going into 2025. The quarterback is not the reason we believe in this football team. A lot of other really fun developments happening during fall camp for Notre Dame that I want to get into. Before we get into it, as always, the Notre Dame fans, appreciate you guys. It's been really fun talking this football team during fall camp. Ton of support from the Notre Dame fans. Appreciate you guys. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. More importantly than that, to the Notre Dame fans who are listening, I know y'all are probably sickos too, and y'all probably reading into these quarterback comments. Would love to hear the takes that the Notre Dame fans have because I'm on the message boards and I'm on Twitter. I'm seeing the takes of, hey, we know who our guy is. I'm seeing takes that we're going to rotate quarterbacks in the week one opener, which I certainly don't think is going to happen. Let it fly in the comment section. Appreciate you guys. Dill, I want to start with this. Do you think Marcus Freeman knows who the quarterback one is rolling into 2025?
I honestly don't because I look, he's kind of forward with most of the things. I mean, he talks about
Yes.
where the battles are on this team, which
Yep.
guys are going to start around this or around the quarterback, I'd
Yeah.
say both on defense and offense. So him being as not withholding, but like just kind of stating what
Yeah.
it is. Like there's a battle going on. I kind of think he doesn't know who it is yet, and they're still battling it out. But I'm kind of with you. Even if he did know, there's no way he'd tell us because what would
I
he?
agree. I agree. So that's like the impossible situation we're in is if he does know, he wouldn't be spouting off to the media who that guy's going to be. Dill, I do think though, I will say this. I think it's important to have a good feel sooner rather than later who your guy's going to be, especially if you're Mike Denbrock, because you are starting to game plan on the offensive side of the football, and the plays that you're going to run with CJ Carr might look a little different if it's a guy like Kenny Minchey.
And you got to be clicking early for Notre Dame. I like they just don't have a ton of time because their schedule is front loaded. I mean, they
Yeah,
have
good point.
Miami and then Texas A&M all within the first 3 weeks. So I don't think you have time to like ease your way into this thing if you're
Yeah,
Miami. Like your quarterback kind of needs to be the guy, and he needs to have chemistry, and they need to be kind of rolling pretty early. So that's where it gets interesting. If they're still like really battling it out and totally splitting number one reps, I'd maybe have some concerns about that,
agreed.
frankly, because you do, and you also don't really have anywhere to make it up. Like you don't play good enough teams down the stretch. You play your top
Yeah,
dogs
yeah,
early.
I really do agree with that as well. Like it's important to kind of start zeroing in it. Dill, we're Michigan fans. Like we had to deal with this 12 months ago. Now it was a little bit of a different circumstance because we didn't have a single quarterback that can play, and also the situation around the quarterback was a freaking disaster too. I guess what I'm trying to say is, look, if it's going to be Kenny Minchey or if it's going to be CJ Carr, you want to start ramping up those reps that they get with the ones, and you want to start building that chemistry between the quarterback and your offensive play caller, Mike Denbrock, and say, hey, what does Kenny Minchey do at a high level? If he's going to be our guy, how can I call this offense and design this offense around what Kenny Minchey does well? Because it will look different between Kenny Minchey and CJ Carr. And we say this all the time. Mike Denbrock, he's a player's coach. He's going to look at his personnel and decide how to run his offense based on the talent that he has on the roster. Next storyline, and with not much else to add, right? We're kind of deadlocked right now. We don't know who it's going to be. This is a fascinating storyline. Gerby Lambert getting some work at guard, potentially going to be starting at right guard for Notre Dame. Because I look at this offensive line and say, Dill, 4 out of the 5 starting spots on the offensive line feel pretty good that they're locked up. Why do you think it is that Gerby Lambert's going to play tackle eventually for Notre Dame? I feel pretty dang good saying that. Why do you think Gerby Lambert is kicking into guard? And, dude, the fact that he's pushing Sully, to me, that's big for Notre Dame. That's telling me Gerby Lambert's ready to go in 2025.
I mean, I think the obvious answer is he is one of your 5 best, and he
Yeah.
probably was going to be. I know he's a second-year guy, but you don't bring in that type of real high-end recruit without the intent. I think, especially nowadays,
Get
to
him on
play
the
them
field
relatively early.
Yeah.
So that's probably it. I mean, just simply a more talented player than a lot of guys in this Notre Dame roster, and that's more talented than good players. It's not like saying Sullivan Abisher is a bad player. He's played good football for Notre Dame. I think Gerby Lambert just has a different gear that they can get to, and Notre Dame's kind of in that position where they need to win on the margins because they are knocking on the door.
We're looking for upside. We're looking for national championship caliber upside, and Gerby Lambert's going to provide you that wherever he's playing on the offensive line. It's a situation where we ain't kicking this kid into guard out of necessity, man. We're kicking him into guard because we feel like he will make our offensive line better in 2025 because Sully can play. We know he can play. The fact that Gerby Lambert's getting work and potentially going to emerge as a starter, that's exciting, Dill. He's a really good athlete. He has some legitimate length, but now he also looks like a power 4 offensive lineman. Go back 12, 18 months ago, we knew that body needed some work. Go look at the picture of this cat during fall camp. He looks like a guy that you want to be riding on the offensive line. That's big for if anything else from a depth piece standpoint. And Dill, this is what makes Notre Dame, in my opinion, a team that you got to love. They're really freaking deep up front. And they were really deep last year, too. They had a ton of injuries and kind of never really skipped a beat. Here's another important name, Dill. Eli Raridon. Regardless of who your quarterback 1 is going to be, you want to have a tight end that can be a safety blanket, that can be a comfortable target for these young quarterbacks to go to, especially early on in the season. That ain't a shot at the wide receivers, because I think the wide receivers are the best they've been in a very long time at Notre Dame. Regardless of that, you want to have a tight end that a young quarterback can lean on. It's been fits and starts for Eli during his time in Notre Dame. It sounds like this is the year that maybe he breaks out and kind of reaches that potential we know he has. To me, really big storyline that's development for Notre Dame during fall camp.
Well, and the big thing is he just needs to complete his game. I mean, he's been a really good blocker. That is why he didn't really catch any passes last year, but he was very effective in line. He can block in space. I think he felt really comfortable in that Mike Dunbrock scheme that frankly forced the tight ends to do a lot in terms of being a really good blocker. So again, I know Cooper Flanagan's kind of like the 5-star name that's kind of coming up through the pipeline, if you will. It's a tough position to play for Mike Denbrock. You need to be such a good blocker. You need to be really smart. So I think Eli Raridon, it'd be really big if he can give them more than he's given in the past to the pass production, because he just didn't give that much.
Just reaching there's a couple of players, because we're going to talk about another player coming up that, as much as we're excited about some of the new faces and new quarterback, there are guys that can get better on this roster. In fact, Dill, that's kind of filled with this offense. I look at the offensive line and say, there's not a single guy up front that shouldn't take a step going into 2025, because there are a bunch of young cats up there. I'm excited about Eli. Want to go to the defensive side of the football real quick. And Dill, this conversation is going to kind of blend into an early preview of this Miami Hurricanes game week 1. Jason Onye, breakout year from, obviously has had some struggles the first couple of years. That's probably the best way to put it. We all know this kid is talented. And Dill, you look at Notre Dame and say, I ain't got many question marks about this football team from a personnel standpoint. Outside of the quarterback spot, probably my biggest question mark is, hey, the difference makers in the depth that we have in the middle of the defensive line, losing guys like Riley Mills and Howard Cross. If Jason Onye can break out and kind of become that difference maker in the middle of this defensive line, it's massive, especially going into these first two matchups where you're playing Miami and you're playing Texas A&M, and it ain't no secret what either of those teams want to do on offense, and they want to run the football. Having some difference makers emerge on that defensive front, specifically when it comes to stopping the run, really big storyline for Notre Dame emerging in fall camp here.
In him getting up to the weight that I think he probably would like to, Notre Dame would like him to be, because they don't have a ton of those 300-plus
Big
pound
guys.
guys. Like, that's probably the one big question you have about this Notre Dame defense is, like, are you big enough to play a Texas A&M or a Miami, two teams that you said it, like, you kind of know what they're going to try to do. They have big offensive lines. They have a deep stable of running backs, and they're going to try to kind of pound on you a little bit. Jason Onye, he needs to be a guy. Like, I mean, he might be one of the more important players on this team because talent-wise, he, to me, is the most talented interior defensive lineman on this team, and I'm not sure how close it is, frankly. So he needs to, like, play that way pretty much.
You go need,
the coaches believe he's going to do it, which is huge.
Yes, I agree. It's his best fault, according to Marcus Freeman, not even me. These are words from Marcus Freeman's mouth. He's had his best fall camp since he's been in Notre Dame. It's also huge because you look at what I think is going to be the engine of this Notre Dame offense or defense, and that's your off-ball linebackers. In order to maximize the playmaking ability of this unit, you have to have a defensive line that's winning up front. If you get that from Jason Onye, that's only going to help Jalen Sneed. It's only going to help Kingston Biliamu. It's only going to help Drake Bowen, which is big because you look at Notre Dame and say, if this defense is dominant in 2025, it's coming from a lot of these off-ball backers. The last storyline here, the safety, this might be the best safety room in the country, right? Like, we know Adon Schuler's that guy. We're kind of trying to figure out who the other safety was going to be. They're going to rotate him. What intrigues me about the rotation is, hey, pick your best safety that can come up and support the run, because that's the safety that's going to be playing a lot of football week 1 and week 3 against Texas A&M. Because I look at, let's just focus on that Miami football game. Miami's got question marks about wide receiver, and I feel relatively comfortable getting up here and saying these cornerbacks, Leonard Moore and Christian Gray, Adon Schuler kind of working with the tight end Elijah Lofton, I feel like Notre Dame can kind of neutralize these pass catchers on the outside. That is a matchup that you love if you're Notre Dame, because Miami's got question marks about who their difference makers are at wide receiver. They're going to try to run the football. Well, now that you know your cornerbacks can be all right on the boundary, we're walking that safety up and trying to support the run. What safety provides you the best value stopping the run? That's going to be huge in that week 1 matchup against Miami in what we got 2 weeks from that game.
And one big thing, I kind of wonder if you're going to see all like 3 safeties playing in those games, because I wouldn't be stunned to see Adon Schuler kick into like that nickel spot, kind of like they did against Georgia, where he was playing a lot around the ball, dealing with the tight ends, and obviously being there to support the run. Because Devontae Smith, I'm not like trying to say he's getting phased out of this team. He's going to have his role. But I don't know that Notre Dame's going to be particularly afraid of Miami throwing the ball.
Look, when you have that kind of versatility in the back end, that's a massive asset. Like, you're playing Miami or Texas A&M, two offenses that you're much more concerned about the run than you are them throwing the football. You might be going to that more. If you play a team like Ohio State or Oregon in the college football playoffs, maybe you're leaning a little bit more into your safeties that have some range in the back end and have better coverage ability. When you have the depth and variety of skill sets, it gets kind of easy to maximize what your defense can be from a week-to-week basis, which is going to be important in Notre Dame. Like, when you talk about trying to win a national championship. Look, the quarterback position is by far the biggest conversation that we will be having over the next couple of days and weeks. A lot of other intriguing storylines on this football team as well. We'll pause it there. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. We'll talk to y'all later.